This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, so welcome back to the part two of how to conduct workshops. So in the previous segment, we looked into what should be done before the workshop and during the workshop. In this video, we'll look into what are the points which you need to keep in mind to be done after the workshop. But before that, just one point, which is a very relevant question, which is asked by most of the BAs. The question is, how do we know the way we should be presenting the project details, or how do we have that very first interaction with the stakeholders? Mostly for those business analysts who have never conducted workshops before, this can be a very big question mark. Like, I don't know how it happens, so what do I do in the very first workshop? Because I need to create a very good impression, and here we are talking about stakeholders who are at a very big position in the client's company. So, few things which can help in this regard is, even before going for that very first interaction with the stakeholders, you need to do some level of groundwork. The first thing that you need to do is have a very good rapport with your project manager first. Okay, the very first time when your project manager is giving you some information about a particular project, try to uh, build that rapport wherein you can ask all sorts of questions about the stakeholders, like how are they, who are they, and what was your interaction like before them with them, and how do they discuss any points or the meetings that you had earlier with them. All those points you ask the questions to project manager to get an idea about the stakeholders, and then you can also take it further and ask the project manager, like, okay, what do you expect me to keep in mind when I'm conducting the workshop, or how do these projects usually happen in your company? Because I've joined recently, I just want to know, because every company has its own work culture, every company has its own way of interacting with the clients. So is there anything specific that I should be aware of even before I interact with the stakeholders? Ask this question, ask the question to the project manager, get some information. And if the project manager is not available, then is there anyone else? If you have to look out, then try to discuss with the fellow business analysts in your company. Maybe in your project you are the only business analyst, but there will surely be a lot many other projects running out there, and every project will have a business analyst allocated to it. So talk to them who have been working as business analysts in that company over a period of time, so they will know. They will be able to guide you better. They'll tell you that okay, keep these things in handy, and this is how you can start the very first interaction. And usually the clients are like this, like that, and all. Or they might have worked with these clients before, so they'll give you that information. So try to get information from wherever possible. That when you have enough preparation, then you will be confident enough to take it up. And do not worry much about this very first workshop, because even if things do not go as per the expectations, you have a series of meetings that will happen as part of this project. So you can keep on, leveling up one workshop after the other. Okay, so the very first step is going to be a little difficult. I would not deny that, but if you can take some, tips from the project manager, from fellow business analysts, and maybe try to find some other external help, that can make things a little easy. Okay, okay. So that was about something which will help you a lot during the workshop. Now coming to what you need to be aware of or keep in mind for doing after the workshop. The very first thing is document review. Which document review am I referring to? The notes that you have taken as part of your documentation here. Okay, this thing you need to quickly review yourself. I'm not asking you to review with anyone else, but you need to review whatever notes you have captured. Let me give you a practical example of what goes wrong here. Let's say that on a given day from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock, you had set up a workshop with the stakeholders. And during that 2 hours discussion, you have made notes, quite a lot of notes. And then what happened is the meeting ended at 12 o'clock. And You didn't review your notes, whatever quickly you have jotted down during the discussion. You didn't do that, and you went on a break, and then you went for lunch, and then you were back at your desk at around 2 or 2:30 p.m. And at that point of time, you open your, quick notes that you have taken during the workshop and try to recall whatever points were there. Because when you take quick notes, you don't elaborate everything, right? You just make some short abbreviations, words, quick, short words here and there to just, remember that point for the moment. Now, what is happening is at 12 o'clock, you've ended your meeting. At 2:30, you're opening your notes and taking a look at it. There is a chance that you will not be able to recall some points which you yourself have noted down in your document. Reason being, there has been a gap in between the time when it got over and you taking a look at it. And in this gap, you might have, you tend to miss out some things. You may not be able to remember each and every short form that you have written in your quick notes. So that leads to missing out some critical points. So don't let that happen. The best way to have this document review is right after the workshop. Immediately after the workshop gets over, you wrap up everything, go back to your desk, and then quickly take a look at whatever points you're taking and try to elaborate each and every sentence, each and every point, each and every phrase, so that you will be having a better understanding of whatever was discussed. That's very much important. Okay, that will also ensure that your points are accurate and complete. The next thing is follow up and action plan. So what you need to do is you have captured a list of points. Now that points will be some will be clear cut information of how the requirements should be done, and then there'll be few points which are more like action items. Okay, what do you mean by action items? Is nothing but let's say during the workshop, taking this food delivery app development as an example, during the workshop you have asked the stakeholders uh, a particular question about, do you want to provide an option of uh, remember password in the login page? Just a very small thing, but uh, you might have to really have this level of clarity. So you ask this question: Do you have you ask the stakeholders the question that, do you want to include an option called remember password in the login page, so that just in case if the customer wants, then they don't have to enter the password every time. They can just click on that. Now, this is a very small point. You ask them, but the stakeholders are not clear on this point because they have not thought about it before. They'll say, okay, Ranjit, we'll do one thing in the next workshop. When we have, we'll come back to you with this confirmation. Do we need to have this option in the login page or not? Okay. So what happened here is you have asked a question and you haven't received the response, so the response is pending from the stakeholders. So this becomes an action item on the stakeholders. Okay, so during your discussion that happens in the workshop, there will be a couple of points like this wherein the answers are not clear. Sometimes it could be the other way, like they ask you some question, like they may ask, Ranjit, we want to know how scalable can this app that you're developing be in the very first phase of its launch. Now, you may not have a clear idea about it. You'll say, okay, I'll get back to my project manager and our tech lead if required. I'll get that information and I'll give you in the next workshop. Now, this is an action item on yourself. Like you were asked a question, you did not have the information, so you're saying that you'll give it in the later sessions. So you make a list of these action items. Okay. So your document review after doing it, you will be preparing a fair version of that particular requirements. You'll be preparing another document. So in that, you will be summarizing whatever was the workshop's outcome, including the action items like this, and also mentioning who is responsible for that. So one action item could be that it requires input from the finance stakeholder by the next workshop. The other action item could be required response from the business analyst by the next workshop, so on and so forth. So you don't just mention the action item, you also mention who is supposed to give that response, and you'll also give a timeline to it by when that response is going to be provided. Okay, so that becomes your follow up, and the action plan involves nothing but um, preparing this list of outcomes and then preparing a plan which tells that, okay, these are the steps to be taken for this particular objective to be met. Okay. The next point is having a feedback. Now you have created this particular document. Okay. You have mentioned all the outcomes. You have mentioned the plan. You have mentioned the action items. The next thing that you need to do is you need to share this with the stakeholders. Why? Because they have to take a look at it and they have to give you a feedback on it, saying that, okay, these are the points that you have captured, but you know what, Ranjit? This particular point, we actually meant it in this way. It is wrongly represented here. Happens. It is bound to happen because what is expressed, if you remember one of the very initial slides, what is expressed versus what is understood, there can be a difference. So that and all should get captured as soon as possible, not when the development and testing is happening. And this requirements phase itself, if you capture it, is good. So you document, you share it across to the stakeholders, they have to review and they have to give you their feedback saying this is fine, this is not correct. You know, this point got missed out, or this point we think we need to discuss more. You know, these and all will be the type of feedbacks that you receive. So you need to get that feedback from all the stakeholders. Okay. And after that, I mentioned here as CI/CD, which actually stands for continuous improvement and continuous development. So that is a separate sort of workflow sort of thing which is followed in the project implementation. But here, when it comes to requirements, what it implies is in your very initial few workshops, you get to understand like how the requirements are getting captured, from where you're getting more of inputs and where the information is a little bit lagging, all those things. So you need to take that into consideration and keep on improving the way the workshop is being run or being facilitated by you. You know, you're trying to make your workshops more and more effective. That is the purpose of it. So you, at the end of every workshop, you can try to analyze like what could have been done better in the workshop to make it a little bit more, effective, having more information sought out or things like that, and try to implement it in the next workshop. Then comes the report and documentation, which is nothing but whatever feedback you've received from the stakeholders, right? You will incorporate those and you'll prepare a second version, or sometimes it might even go to third or fourth version. So you create that iterated, revised version of the requirements document saying that, okay, in this workshop number one, these were the requirements which we had finalized upon. These were the action items for which these were the responses that we received at a later point of time. So that sort of proper report and documentation needs to be created. That will later help in your creation of BRD if it's a waterfall methodology, or user stories if it's a Scrum based project, agile. Okay, so this is what you need to make sure about the points that you need to do after the workshop. I hope things are clear till here. So we'll close this session here today and we'll start with a new segment which is about the principles to be followed by a business analyst in the next video. Okay, thanks everyone.